What up, everybody? Hello, hello. Wow, look at this. That's our control room. Cool. Hi, Max Columbus. How's it going? Hi, Suzanne. How are you? Hi, hi. Yeah, this Ronin shot. I think they just left it on, but that's our boy Kev over there. And then yeah, that is the Ronin just sitting there, waiting for the good stuff. All right, let's see here. June 2nd, to finish counting most ballots, June 15th. So later at June 2nd, they have to arrive within 7 days, June 9th, 13-day mandate. They have to, 13 days after the election. Interesting. Okay, so 13 days is when it's due, but vote. And NBC's Richard Engel is in Jerusalem tonight. Richard, what is this latest escalation due to any peace?
The president has arrived at Madison Square Garden.
The president has arrived at Madison Square Garden.
There's a lot of ambiguity about what these peace talks are, what they mean, what we're even talking about.
Going on right now
this is not a normal conflict between two
Hi
parties
says,
that are trying to make
ball?
peace.
Does Hi know me personally? Because some of the questions you have are particularly spot on. Go Benjels. He's on the sideline. He must be injured.
Guys, he asked this morning in the editorial meeting, I am really loud.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to turn you down too. Wow, and I'm hearing you triple.
He asked what time the first pitch was.
No, I said, what time is kickoff?
It's not better.
Yeah. Yes, because kickoff, those balls are bigger. Pitch, the balls are smaller. They all use numbers.
Tip off. You were almost there.
Yeah. Echo. Oh, I think the chat is hearing it too. And Dunlop. Hello, Ann. How are you? So here's the thing about echo. Echo happens a lot, and it's all about like where the microphones are being routed. I'll tell you something. Here's a little inside baseball, or basketball, if you will. Yeah, the the crazy thing is, a lot of times we hear that echo in our ears, and it is like, we call it mix minus or mix plus, and it is so discombobulating. And if you ever see like an anchor or like a correspondent like start like short circuiting, it's because they're hearing either themselves or somebody else in triplicate or duplicate. And it just messes with your train of thought so bad. And that's why a lot of times like you'll see this. Like you'll see somebody pull out their IFB, it's because they're getting that. Or because somebody is yelling at their ear. Let's see, Ryan. What's up, YouTube Ryan? How are you? One monitor for this, the other monitor for finals. What are you trying to do? Get us in IP trouble here? I hope that explained it. Where are you, please? Deborah. Hi, Deborah Rose. We are, well, this is my studio here at the, well, it's the Studio W. It's not my studio, but this is Studio W on the Universal Studios lot. Look at, I'm on, this chair spins around. So this is the full tour. This is the window, wow, I'm a little dizzy now. This is the window that we use. These are, we call them the windows, and you'll see us use them I think a lot today. And yeah, we've got a couple of cameras in, 3 cameras in here, robot cameras, but my favorite is the Ronin, which I think it was Mao today. I don't know who's going to be on it. Hollywood. We're on technically the other side of the Hollywood sign. So yeah, I think we're Hollywood. We're North Hollywood, Studio City. Yeah, biggest lot in Hollywood. I mean, it's massive how big this lot is. SMO, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a little while. Good to see you. Hi. Just noticed, does the iPad camera not have a wide enough angle as it used to? Damn. Hi, nothing gets by you. So this iPad is actually Kevin's iPad because I keep forgetting my iPad at home. And my iPad has the 0.5. This one does not. Agree about Trump and the Kristen Welker thing. It's so interesting. I mean, look, Kristen's like a colleague. We love her, friend. So we all see it very differently than I think the rest of the world sees it. But that interview has become somewhat of a Rorschach test. everybody sees what they see. Christopher Salazar in Los Angeles. You should show the control room when going into commercial, have the theme song playing. That'd be pretty cool. Which control room? You want this control room right here with this and this one, and Lisa over there in her cool spectacles? Or do you want this one and the West Coast, which we haven't put up? Funny story. Yeah, that's Kev. Let's see. I think the color temperature on mine looks better. Yes, I think so too. Look, your iPad looks better all around. What do we need to do? How do we get this quality? I don't know how you're optimizing, but maybe we'll get a new, I don't know, optimization through the latest updates that are coming from Apple, which they had their big WWCD day today. Did you guys, anybody follow that? Lisa, control room, NBC News playing. Chiron, interesting. Let's see. Just have NBC expense. I mean, I have an iPad, and it's a good one. Do I remember covering Obama's win at KOB in 2008? Username. My ghost of the past is back. I do remember covering. I remember covering his rallies. I remember him in Espanola. This is a really sad story, but we went up to Espanola and Obama was there, and somebody totally blew it on the Pledge of Allegiance, I think. They did not know the words, and they introduced the.
We just.
real?
Yeah,
Is this
this
right
is
now?
real. We just got it.
Okay, let me see that again. Can we throw that again?
Can we throw a preview up again?
Wow, this is coming from Decision Desk?
This Decision Desk, yeah, it's official.
Yeah, 50% rule, 93% in. So, wow, 229 to 207 on this latest batch. And the difference, looks like the difference that we're seeing here, the difference that's reflected on that page is the difference between Bass and Rahman, not Rahman and Pratt, even though Rahman and Pratt are it's the race that everybody's watching right now. But this shows, man, those latest votes have definitely broken towards Rahman. And then, you know, this is something that a lot of political insiders here in Los Angeles and in California have been projecting for some time. And the vote is not done, but as you see, 93% reporting in, and they'll probably be finalized in the next few days or week here. Thanks so much, George. But you can imagine, you know, a lot of people are going to have a lot of thoughts on this. Why does mail go into Rahman more and not Bass? User 583. Mail-in votes still being counted. Yep. Ross says Cali cheating again. Let's see. Yeah. So look, there is a lot. California should be cheating in the primaries. This is something that is being talked about here in California and all over the country. The way California counts votes is extremely, extremely complicated. But basically, there's 3 different ways to count vote that you can vote here in California. One, you take your ballot, you go in person, and then they tabulate it there, easy, like in-person voting, right? Pretty much the same as everywhere else. 2, you got your mail-in ballots. Now, everybody in California is mailed a ballot. You don't request it. You don't have to request it. Anybody that gets a ballot that's registered to vote or eligible to vote gets it in the mail. So those are sitting around people's houses. And then 3, you can mail in your ballot, and you can mail that ballot in on election day. You can wait all the way, like procrastinate, right? Wait all the way until election day. And as long as it's postmarked by election day, they will wait for that vote, then they will count it, and it takes a long time. Now, the reason why this has gotten very, very controversial is because if you think about like the political makeup of who is voting for Karen Bass, for Rahman and Pratt, obviously there's going to be exceptions here, many exceptions, but demographically speaking, like political insiders will say that Spencer Pratt is going to skew center right or right, and that part of the political demographic tends to vote in person on election day. It's something that we've seen in 2020. It's something that you hear from the president and you hear from the right, the idea of like going and making sure your vote is counted because the system is rigged and all these things. And they push for same-day election voting. Now, what's happened in the past, and we saw it during Bass versus Caruso and now Rahman versus Bass, there have been very big drives aimed at trying to target late voters, younger voters, millennial and Gen Z voters, procrastinating voters. And it seems from what I've heard from a bunch of political insiders is that Rahman's campaign really focused on that demographic, the younger, very progressive, like they have their ballots at home, but they may not be voting because they may not be able to take off work or just procrastinating, whatever it is. So it all comes down to like political ground game and who can go out. And then California also has vote harvesting, which complicates things even further. Because somebody can sign, hey, I want this person to go turn in my vote, my ballot for me. And so there are big ballot harvesting initiatives where they'll target different apartment complexes, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, long story short, it is a very clunky system, and all of the different campaigns have different ground games. And from what we've heard, that targeting the kind of procrastinating vote is the reason why we are seeing so many of these votes that are coming in late skew Rahman more so than Bass and more so than Spencer Pratt. That's not to say that people still aren't voting for Spencer Pratt, because we still see some of those votes trickling in, and they're still voting in for Mayor Karen Bass as well. But that's it in a nutshell. Some people will see all of this and they'll be like, the whole thing, that's complicated, it's rigged. Like, it's all, they're switching things up just to make sure that one party wins or two party wins. Call it what you will. The laws allow for all of these things, and both sides of the aisle engage in this type of behavior. That being said, there are now allegations, unsubstantiated, of widespread, irregularities, or I think it's we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But FBI is looking into it. There is no evidence so far of any sort of widespread fraud. So we're looking into all of it. It's very, very complicated. But I hear what you're saying, Roll Tide. A lot of people feel that way. Blue pitch gaming. Certainly understand why people are frustrated with the speed of vote counting. Makes sense. Let's see. Roll Tide. We'll see. Stick around. Let me know what you think. Here we go. Happy Monday, Jay.
1 minute yet to you.
Oh, we got 1 minute. All right, this is the part where we've got the open. Ready? Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight a big twist in the race for LA mayor. Former reality TV star Spencer Pratt going from second place to third place. Does this mean his campaign is over? Well, the votes are still getting counted, and to complicate things even further, the president of the United States is weighing in, claiming the election is rigged, but offering no evidence. And any minute now, we are expecting an update on the governor's race, which is just as controversial. Plus, another wave of missiles flying in the Middle East, another series of airstrikes, and another battlefield opening up in Yemen. What is happening to this fragile ceasefire? And the New York Knicks are coming back home tonight, 2 wins away from history. The fever is high, the hype is real. And with the president expected to be in the building, you can believe those headed in are getting screamed like it's TSA. And so breaking news tonight, we are starting here in California, where moments ago we just got a call in the Los Angeles race for mayor. NBC News is now projecting that City Council member Nithya Raman has pulled ahead of reality TV star Spencer Pratt to take second place. She is the second projected winner, advancing to the general election in November, according to NBC News right now. And her sudden surge to overtake Pratt is something President himself, President Trump, has called into question, writing on Truth Social this afternoon. Not possible for Spencer Pratt to have lost the LA runoffs after the big lead he had. Third world nation rigged elections. Now they'll be working on great guy Steve Hilton. Won't have results for possibly 2 weeks, according to officials. This allegation coming just a few days after this tense moment with NBC's Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. Take a look.
Listen to me.
Let's talk
There's
about
tremendous evidence. There's nothing but
not been
evidence.
presented
The election
in a
was
court of
rigged.
law.
It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in
never
California.
Presented evidence
It's happening
that the
right now in
2020 election
California.
was rigged.
Right now, it's look at what's happening in California.
Where's the evidence to that?
It's
The
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California, it's no, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days. And they aren't even close to coming up with it.
That's how they count
You know
the
why they're
votes in
doing that?
California.
Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
all
that?
I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen to people, and let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
let's
Well,
continue.
you play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play
continue.
right into their hands.
All right, so we should note that interview was interrupted several times by the rain, and Trump ended it after 50 minutes. We should also note so far there has been no evidence of wide-scale election fraud in California. We want to bring in NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz. Liz, quite the flip here from Pratt leading Rahman all those days to now Rahman taking second position, and there are still more than 100,000 ballots still probably being counted right behind you, right? So where are we right now?
Yeah, hey, Gotti. I mean, first I'll just show you that, yes, this is democracy in action here. These are people here counting these ballots. It's a very open process here at the LA Counting Processing Center. You can come and watch and observe. This is where they take the ballots out of the envelopes, make sure there's no tears, make sure that there's no coffee stains before they then make their way over here. Carlos, I'm going to have you swing by over here. We're going to show folks this is the highly secure tally room. This is where those ballots come. Inside here is very secure. There's no internet. Only authorized personnel are allowed. And when we talk about the shift, a lot of people are wondering, how does this work? Why is it taking so long to count these ballots? And why then is there this shift to the progressive candidate? Here in LA, it is an overwhelmingly blue city. And people might remember that back in the mayoral race, when the current mayor, Karen Bass, was up against Rick Caruso, it took several days as well for Karen Bass to be announced as winner. These late mail-in ballots, Gotti, many Democrats tend to vote by mail more than Republicans. And take a look at this. 81% of all the ballots returned so far in this race are vote by mail. So the day of votes may have trended towards the Republicans. And then as these late arriving ballots have come in and slowly been counted in this very kind of slow process here, that is why you're seeing the swing towards the Democratic candidates.
81%, that is pretty wild. And that election process that's going on there, I mean, you have people from all the political spectrums in there validating all of that, right?
Yeah, anybody. I mean, we'll just continue to show you because it is really interesting to watch. And we should also say that this step here where they're taking the ballots out of the envelope, this is after the very robust signature verification process that these ballots go through. Anybody can sign up to be an election worker. And we did see actually earlier today for the second time, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the DOJ, sent a representative to come and observe this ballot counting process. He was given a tour. He was also given a tour on Friday. We do know that the DOJ locally here says that they're working with the FBI to investigate multiple election fraud claims. They did, though, Gotti, debunk one of them. The U.S. Attorney came out and said that one of those claims that had been circulating, that Spencer Pratt got 0 votes in one of the ballot drops, that they investigated it, and they did come out and say that that claim is false.
Yeah, and that looked like it was a glitch in between reporting from the AP. It got very, very complicated, and yet that screenshot, I mean, travels the world so very quickly. All of this complicates the entire playing field here, but what do we know right now about the governor's race?
Yeah, so in the race for governor, NBC News has not called that race yet. It's still too close to call. It could be something that NBC is able to project later today. We're still getting the vote tallies in. Right now, as we know that the Democrat Javier Becerra is advancing to the runoff. It does look like the Republican Steve Hilton has been holding on to his second place. But he has been one of the most vocal critics of this process, because there's people who are saying, you know what, maybe you don't think there's fraud. Maybe, this is all working as it should. There's no evidence of fraud, but this is just such an antiquated process. In 2026, it should not take this many days to count the votes. And he has been advocating for policy change. In fact, Governor Newsom's office, governor himself, they have said that they want the ballot count to happen faster and to move quicker. So I think, if anything, Gotti, with so many eyes nationally now on these races, it might lead to some change here in the state just to speed up the process.
Yeah, but ironically, that change would probably involve an election, which we would have to wait for. So no quick answers on any of this. NBC's Liz Kreutz, thanks so much for that inside look. I do want to bring in Steve Kornacki. He's NBC's chief data analyst. He's at the big board tonight. Steve, we just projected that Rahman and Bass are going to be advancing to the general election. Can you break down this latest batch of numbers here?
Yeah, again, just more of the same of what we've seen since election night, and that is that late arriving, late counted vote by mail has just been overwhelmingly Democratic, and it's been particularly good among the Democrats for Rahman. So that update we just got from Los Angeles, as you can see, Nithya Rahman now with nearly 230,000 votes, Spencer Pratt 207,000 and change. The gap there between them sits at about 22,000 votes. Currently, so 22,000. Before that update, the gap was about 3,000, right? So in those new votes, Rahman got more than 30,000 of them. She got about 33,000 new votes. Pratt got about 14,000 new votes. So she got more than double the number of new votes and took what had been a narrow gap between them. And now it's just opened up. It's exploded, and it's wide enough that our decision desk is comfortable now saying, with relatively few number of votes still to be counted here, Pratt's not going to be overtaking her. But again, if you've been watching this, really since I'd say the day after the election, it was pretty clear this moment was going to be coming, because those, Pratt had done pretty well on election night and did pretty well with the folks who went out and voted on election day. Some of that vote by mail that had arrived earlier, he had done, okay with. But once you started to see those updates that were coming in, starting last Wednesday, you were just seeing numbers like that. You were seeing Rahman more than doubling up, close to doubling up Pratt with each new update. And it was clear that pattern just wasn't going to change. The late arriving, the late process, the late counted vote by mail here, overwhelmingly pro-Rahman, pro-Democratic. And finally, the numbers have just reached a point where statistically our decision desk is able to make that call.
And Steve, I'm not sure if you were able to see Liz's very illuminating report, but on the board they had, I think it was 80 or 81% mail-in ballots for Los Angeles. Is that the trend for California as well? What's the latest for that second spot in California's gubernatorial race?
Yeah, I mean, take a look and show you the governor's race. I know you guys were just talking about this, but put it back up on the screen right there. And the drama here, the suspense, such that it is whether Hilton holds off Steyer. Hilton, the Republican, Steyer, a Democrat. The significance, obviously, will California have a general election for governor between a Democrat and a Republican, or will it have a general election between a Democrat and another Democrat? If Steyer were to get into second place, that's what would happen. The Republicans would get locked out. Again, that gap right now sits at about 212,000 votes, Hilton's advantage over Steyer. Some of the numbers that just came in, particularly from Los Angeles County, biggest in the state, overwhelmingly Democratic county, they did help Steyer narrow the gap, but that's still a very big gap there between Hilton and Steyer. And the dynamic here is a little bit different than what we're talking about in that L.A. mayor's race, where, again, you could just see it coming. The pace that Rahman was winning those late counted, late processed vote by mails by over Pratt was just so overwhelming. You could just see it was going to come to this. Steyer's been doing better, relative to how he started out with the late arriving vote by mail in the governor's race. But his advantage over Hilton, his improvement, has not been as significant as we saw in that mayor's race. So Hilton's had some strong, relatively speaking, some strong areas in the state too. And so that pad is looking, it's looking like an awfully steep hill for Steyer to have a chance to actually overtake Hilton. Again, not at that level where our decision desk can call it, but if you're looking at the governor's race, yeah, I think the prospect there is, you're starting to clarify the prospect of a Democrat against a Republican in the general election there.
And Steve, I want to ask you this question, and forgive me if this is way, way off base here, but looking at that and seeing Steve Hilton's numbers come in, it's funny because these days mail-in ballots coming in, at least in Los Angeles, that's kind of like a political insiders will see it as the young procrastinator vote, right? And yet mail-in ballots across the country, especially in places like Florida, that's seen as like older demographics. They're the ones that don't want to leave the house and they send it in. In the last few election cycles, that's kind of been thrown up in the air. You've got the right wanting every vote to be counted in person. They want to be sure that that their vote is counted by a machine or something that they can see right there. When we're looking at these numbers here, do you think that there's a difference between LA's demographic and these numbers that are coming in from the mail-in ballots and what we're seeing here with Steve Hilton seeing some of big chunks of mail-in ballots as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the difference between LA County being, such a deeply, deeply blue area. And again, you look at the rest of the state here, you do see an awful lot of red here. It means there's a lot of counties where Hilton is actually running in first place here. And in fact, there's a lot of counties, if you have even in a presidential election in California, if you were to look at the map after, there'd be a lot of counties that are red. It's not particularly close statewide because there's just a lot more population in LA, in the Bay Area, places like that when you add it all together. But places like, the Central Valley, the San Joaquin Valley, you're going to find a lot of Republican votes in those areas. So there are some places, or the Inland Empire, there are places, where Hilton's been able to do fairly well here and where Steyer has struggled. So that's the difference. When you're talking about an LA mayor's race, you're talking about a city, that Donald Trump lost 75 to 25, but I think it was 74 to 26% in 2024. It's that overwhelmingly Democratic, whereas the state of California, it's very Democratic, but not nearly as Democratic as the city of Los Angeles.
And right now, again, when you look at the numbers with LA, it looks like 93% reporting in overall in California, 80% in. Do we have any indication as to whether the ones that are outstanding still are rural versus urban?
It's a mix because what's been happening is what we've seen in Los Angeles, tonight. That basically these counties tend to do this once a day, so you get generally one a day updates. It varies a little bit, but after election night, they kind of spit out a new number, whatever they could get through that day, at the end of the day. So we've been going through this now for 6 nights since the election. We're starting in late afternoon East Coast time, working the way into the nighttime hours. One county after another starts giving its results. So you'll get a San Diego County, an Orange County, a Los Angeles County. You'll get a Bay Area county. Those are going to be big numbers for Democrats coming out of there. But you'll also get, like Merced, or you'll get some of these, sort of Central Valley, places that are going to be more favorable to Republicans. And we just kind of keep repeating that process each night.
Yeah, and one more time, sorry, for the people in the back, Steve, some people are going to be tuning in and they might have been living under a rock and they're going to be like, wait, did he just say that there might be a Democrat versus a Democrat in the, in the general election? Can you remind us about this weird, California top 2 advance system that we have?
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way. Top 2 system is in the primary, everybody, regardless of party, that's Democrat, that's Republican, that's any other party, independent, they run on the same ballot. So we keep showing you these top 3, but just to give you a sense, these are all the folks on the ballot for governor there in California. They all get votes, and the top 2, regardless of party, advance to the general election. So, that was the possibility, and there was a lot of drama, I think, in the run-up to, these votes being tabulated. Would Republicans even get one of those spots? Because they've missed. There have been some high-profile cases since California went to this system where Republicans have missed, and it's been 2 Democrats running, in a statewide election. There was a U.S. Senate race a couple years ago, where that was the case. And this was actually a big story in the final days of the campaign. The 2 main Republicans, Hilton, who you see, and Chad Bianco, he's the sheriff of Riverside County, big one there in the Inland Empire. He's the other main Republican vote getter. And Hilton was saying publicly in the final days of the campaign, hey, Bianco supporters, I got nothing against your guy personally, but you don't want to have 2 Democrats running in November. You want a Republican on the ballot. You better get off the Bianco bandwagon and get on board with me. It may be that that message got through from Hilton to just enough voters for him to get one of those 2 spots. Maybe.
And Steve, yet, again, when we're talking about California and the political demographics here, like to be realistic with the entire field that you have on a scroll here, we've got 2.1 million for Javier Becerra, 1.9 for Steve Hilton, then 1.7 for Tom Steyer, and then what was that on Bianco's?
Yeah, Bianco, 700, a little bit more than 3/4 of a million.
794. Okay. And then you've got all of the other, mostly Democrats below. So all of those would be going into a Democrat pool. You can see how, California still looks very, very blue. Steve Kornacki with the most illuminating big board out there. Steve, thank you so very much.
You got it. Thanks.
And let's go to the war with Iran, where a ceasefire seems to be hanging on by a thread after Israel and Iran exchanged a wave of attacks over the weekend. Iran launching ballistic missiles at Israel over the weekend. Israel has continued to fire missiles into Lebanon for weeks. Iran's strikes mark the first major move like this since the ceasefire went into effect in April. And then Israel launching strikes into Iran, kicking off 3 more salvos of Iranian missiles targeting Israel. Now, Reuters is pointing out that at least one of those missiles did not make it all the way to Israel, but fell into an unpopulated area of the West Bank. While the tension seems to have died down for just a bit here, President Trump says peace negotiations are still underway and things should move quickly. And NBC's Richard Engel is in Jerusalem tonight. Richard, what does this latest escalation do to any peace talks?
Well, there's a lot of ambiguity about what these peace talks are, what they mean, what we're even talking about. This is not a normal conflict between 2 parties that are trying to make peace. You've got the U.S., which, of course, launched the war with Israel. So President Trump is in a unique position now where he's trying to mediate between Iran and Israel when he and Prime Minister Netanyahu started this war together not very long ago. And now he is angry that Prime Minister Netanyahu is escalating, is not stopping when he wants. He's been angry with Iran. You have the Gulf countries that in this case sat out the conflict. They were spared. There were no drones or missiles fired at any of the Gulf countries. Also, U.S. ships weren't involved, although the U.S. is still in the Persian Gulf, still maintaining an embargo, which is an act of war. So you have many different interlocking and overlapping conflicts. So when you talk about a peace deal, what kind of peace deal? Is it a peace deal like the peace deal that is supposedly in effect between Israel and Lebanon? Because that isn't working. There's ongoing conflicts, ongoing fighting right now between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. There were new strikes in southern Lebanon today. It was because of the continuation of the war in Lebanon, Israel's intensifying offensive there, and strikes over the weekend in Beirut that Iran says prompted it to launch the attacks. So when people talk about a ceasefire, a peace deal, the negotiations, those terms really don't apply or mean very much in the context of this conflict.
When it comes to who's calling the shots, I mean, Trump told the Financial Times that Netanyahu will have no choice but to make a deal with Iran because he calls the shots. Is that true from what you've seen? Like, what do we know about the current status of Netanyahu's relationship with President Trump?
Thank you.
Of course it's not true. Israel is going to do what Israel wants to do. Every country is going to do what it believes is in its best interest. Ukraine is going to do what's best for Ukraine. Putin is going to pursue his interest. The idea that President Trump calls all the shots is certainly not the case, and certainly isn't the case in conflict. Decisions aren't made like that in wars. They're often organic. It depends on the soldiers. It depends on the weather. There can be accidents. There can be miscalculation. Iran's calculation, it seems, at this stage, was to escalate because Iran decided to launch about 30 ballistic missiles over the course of a night and a day at Israel. Israel responded, firing on a dozen targets, according to the Red Crescent in Iran. President Trump isn't calling these shots. He called on Prime Minister Netanyahu in the midst of the barrage, saying that Israel shouldn't respond, and Israel responded anyway. With Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that as the Prime Minister of Israel, he had no other choice. And that may be the case. As the Prime Minister of Israel, he was going to respond to an Iranian attack. Every person in this country, perhaps, thought that Israel was going to respond. Certainly, the Middle East analysts who were commenting on this situation as it was unfolding last night fully expected Israel to respond. So the idea that President Trump says he calls all the shots suggests that he has complete control of a situation which is not under control at the moment.
And, you know, there's what's happening between Israel and Iran right now. We also continue to see fighting in Lebanon. We're also hearing reports of missiles from Yemen, right? And Yemen and the Houthis threatening more action in the Red Sea. Like, is this war widening?
Yes. The entry of the Houthis into this is an expansion. So right now, or for the last several months, we've been talking about the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz now, I think, is a strait that every American knows by now. It could probably locate on a map. It's in the Persian Gulf. It's responsible for the flow of about 20% of the world's oil and gas. But on the opposite side of Arabia, you have the Red Sea coming out of the Suez Canal and ending at the Bab el-Mandeb. That is where the Houthis operate, and the Houthis are threatening to enter the war and tighten that waterway, which is also a vital shipping lane. So they fired at least one missile at Israel, and then earlier tonight, there were reports that they also fired a drone at Israel. So it is yet another factor in, I think you can say, the many wars that are underway in the Middle East right now.
Many wars is a perfect way to put it. Richard Engel in Jerusalem tonight. Richard, thank you. And from all that conflict and uncertainty, a packed schedule for the president here in the United States. There was that morning call with Netanyahu, posting on Truth Social that both sides are looking to do an immediate ceasefire. Now he's getting ready to cheer on his hometown team in the NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden. Quite the 12 hours here. Now let's bring in NBC's Gabe Gutierrez, who's at the White House. Gabe, what's the White House saying about these strikes?
Well, Gotti, look, this was the president today trying to bring Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu back from the brink of another renewed all-out war in the Middle East. Now, listen, over the past 24 hours, these two phone calls between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump really showing how complicated their relationship can be. The president telling our Kristen Welker on Friday that they're on the same page, but that they do have disagreements. But in this particular case, the president really wanted Israel not to escalate this further and to risk causing this conflict to spiral out of control. Now, there was this back and forth. You see the video right there with these Iranian, the Israeli Air Force attacking 7 military sites across Iran after the IDF had said that Iran had fired about 10 ballistic missiles at Israel. And there was a real concern that this could escalate further. But at this point, it does appear that both sides, Israel and Iran, have said that this particular skirmish, if you want to call it that, they've moved on from it. The question is, will it escalate over the next couple of days if a peace deal, longer-term peace deal, is not reached?
Has this affected the peace deal calculus at all?
Well, look, we don't know where these peace negotiations stand at this point. The White House and President Trump have been saying that a deal could come at any day now, but we've been hearing that, frankly, Gotti, now for several weeks. The truth is that Iran has said that there could be no lasting peace here in this conflict until there is some sort of lasting ceasefire in Lebanon, where Israel seems poised to continue attacking the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. So until there is some sort of answer to that question, what will happen in Lebanon, there remain a lot of unanswered questions about how this peace deal, this longer-term peace deal, longer-term ceasefire, can be worked out. Got it.
And from the geopolitics of the day to the Knicks, Game 3 of the NBA Finals is about to go off in a few minutes. I know it looks like you're stuck at the White House. The president's at the game. How much planning went into all this?
Yeah, got it. A little far from the action tonight anyway. The president expected to hear well after midnight. First, he's going to take in this huge game. Of course, we know it's such a huge deal in New York. The first time they've hosted these NBA Finals in decades, but the security presence outside of Madison Square Garden is just immense. We're talking, several city blocks. I mean, there's a perimeter of several city blocks, several avenues, hundreds of police officers, anti-drone technology as well in and around MSG. And the security posture is elevated because last night there was an incident there, a stabbing incident that has really raised the threat level even more. Now, some of the watch parties in and around MSG have also been scaled down considerably, some canceled. But this all comes with the President of the United States, a longtime sports fan, longtime Knicks fan, making the decision to head to Madison Square Garden, which is the center of the sports world. Certainly, the President of the United States attracting just a massive security response with already all that attention on MSG. Got it.
Yeah, there's no game time decision when it comes to the Secret Service. Meanwhile, it seems over the past 24 hours, I don't know about your feed, but like my algorithms, this interview between the president and Kristen Welker, they have been everywhere, right? So how does the White House feel about how that sit down went? And what's the word on the next promised interview here?
Well, look, it was quite the remarkable moment in more ways than one. I was in Wisconsin on Friday, not too far from where an interview was conducted, and the other side of the barn, really. And you could hear the repeated weather interruptions, that pounding rain on the roof. So there were already a bunch of delays there. But then how it ended with President Trump walking away from that interview when Kristen was pressing him on some questions about election integrity. Look, as Kristen said over the weekend, she spoke to President Trump on Saturday, and they acknowledged the challenges with the weather. And the president, according to Kristen, agreed to have a future sit down with Meet the Press, although the timing of that is still unclear. Again, we don't know when that interview will happen, but it was quite the moment, Gotti.
We'll stay tuned for that. Gabe Gutierrez at the White House. Gabe, thank you. And again, going from all of that to the geopolitics to this, we're going to go back to New York City. That is where President Trump is now inside Madison Square Garden ahead of tip-off for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Massive, massive security presence there. You can see what appears to be bulletproof glass in the front of that VIP box that he's watching from. Of course, we're going to update that as we get more images here. And back here in California, the trial against a man accused of starting the Palisades fire has started with jury selection. Now, prosecutors are saying that Jonathan Rinderknecht allegedly set the fire on January 1st after a night of driving for Uber on, that would have been New Year's Eve. And the original fire was fought and suppressed, but it still smoldered underneath the ground and then was fanned with those record-breaking winds. Those ashes would then start one of the deadliest fires in the state's history. 12 people died. Thousands of homes in the Palisades burned to the ground. It's the reason why LA's mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt says he is running for office after losing his home in those fires. Steve Patterson joins us now. And Steve, I was reading about this, and it looks like the defense can't really get into whether there was any negligence from the fire department, which is crazy because that's That's what a lot of the conversation is about here in Los Angeles, right? How is that going to work?
It's part of the conversation about the LA mayor race as well. Yeah, so that was meant to be sort of a big part of the defense as well. But it also goes both ways because prosecution can't get into things that they wanted to get into, like one being, if you remember, he did this whole ChatGPT thing where he built
those images.
Yeah, remember those images? He told ChatGPT to essentially build the cityscape that was on fire and people running from that. The judge said they can't use that either. So it sort of cuts both ways. And I think both have to sort of figure out a strategy. The defense is saying that it was New Year's Eve. There were tons of fireworks that night. They're saying that the state has nothing to prove that their guy was the one that actually set the fire. So they're going to use that defense. And they said they have enough to prove it.
Jury selection is underway right now. And usually in jury selection, you hear like right to a fair trial. And it's usually about a person. And a person has gotten so much publicity over something that it's like, have you ever heard of this person's scandal? And then they dismiss the jury. In this case, it's not a person. It's like the response from the city. How do you make sure there's a right to a fair trial when a lot of people have been watching what's happening in the news?
If I had that answer, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? I mean, that is the complicated question. We know a little bit about the process. More than 100 people sort of being interviewed to be jurors on that panel. We know it's a very private process over the next, both today and tomorrow, and hopefully they'll have a panel by tomorrow night. They want to get opening statements underway on Wednesday, but it's going to be incredibly selective for that reason. Attorneys probably interviewing each individual person and then being reviewed by a judge, and then making sure there's no emotion in that process. Because, like you said, like 6,800 structures, 12 people killed, a whole mayor's race essentially built upon that. It's a really big deal, and they're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure they got the right people.
I was actually in an Uber recently, and we're talking about this, and the Uber driver was like, "Wait, what? There's arson?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, there's an arson trial. It's getting ready to go on." People in LA, I mean, so much of the politics has overshadowed what we're seeing here, right?
The politics, the rebuilding process, the agony of people, waiting to find out what would happen with the plots of their homes. Like so much of it, was sort of the prevailing message or the conversation that sort of overshadowed the fact that, there was, by the way, there was this guy who officials say, they alleged set the fire that led and spread to this other fire that caused all this damage. So, I mean, I think the conversation has really not been about this. But I think this week we will see, as opening statements start, that it will shift back.
Yeah, and we'll continue to watch that trial very closely. Steve Patterson, really appreciate it. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, the search for survivors after a massive earthquake rocks the Philippines. A dire situation facing tens of thousands of people who are now without a place to sleep. Plus, the massive explosion in Tennessee, a truck carrying fireworks on the highway sparking that scene right there. We're going to show it to you coming up next. But first, you see this QR code? Well, that means you can pull out your phone and you can scan through. Hold on, wait for it. Wait for it. There it is, that little QR code right there. If you get a lock with your phone, it'll take you right behind the scenes, streaming right now on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. You can come by and join the comment section live, and we will read them. We'll see you there. All right, here we go. Ready? Oh, have I been muted this whole time?
5 seconds.
Sorry, guys.
Standing, sir. 5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit off the coast of Cuba today, and another that's about 300 miles from Miami. There were no immediate reports of anyone being significantly hurt there, even though the quake was felt in Cuba, parts of Florida, and Cancun. Then there was this 7.8 magnitude earthquake that killed at least 35 people. That one struck near the Philippines today. At least 200 other people have been hurt. Several buildings collapsed, and search and rescue operations are currently happening. We're looking for survivors there. And an early 4th of July spectacle stopped traffic near Chattanooga, Tennessee over the weekend. This is a pickup truck filled with fireworks, and those fireworks just going straight up into every direction. The local fire department said somehow no one was hurt, but they still have no clue what caused that fire. And workers at an Oregon lumber yard got quite the surprise when a hot air balloon just floated in last week. Look at that. Here it comes. Workers quickly helped guide it away from stacks of wood pallets and other materials, pulling that rope there. Luckily, no one was hurt. And FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is now looking for a presidential pardon. The convicted cryptocurrency founder has filed a formal application for a pardon from President Trump while serving a 25-year sentence for fraud and conspiracy. The White House has yet to respond. And coming up, a one-on-one with a former AI worker who is now running for Congress. Democrat Alex Boris joins us next to talk about AI in politics and why the biggest names in artificial intelligence want to see him lose. If you're watching, stay tuned now. It's going to be great. All right. Hi, guys. Muted. Yeah, so sorry about that, everybody. What are press conferences? What if there are two important live events or press conferences at once? Which one takes priority? Jay Place, great question. Usually it's the one that impacts the most people. Bankman-Fried, interesting. Ronald, interesting take there. Dawn, we can hear us now. Great. What else? What did I miss? What were you guys talking about? Late to the chat. Oh, Helmuth, how's it going? Great to see you. Interesting. What does the stream look like on our end? Can you show us with the Ronin? Yeah, after the show, I'll show you with the Ronin. That's a good, yes. Yes, Jay Place, I will do that. Right at the end, okay? We'll try to keep it up. Let's see.
We are back in 30.
Back in 30 seconds here. I think you answered my questions, but we couldn't hear you. Yeah, I was trying to answer all your questions. Hi. I think we were talking about the open and the choice for an open. Basically, if there are huge stories that are happening that are totally disconnected, which is California politics,
10 seconds.
the Knicks, and Iran, we try to
5,
go there.
4, 3.
An AI proxy war is taking Manhattan. You might not know our next guest's name, but some of the world's most powerful companies definitely do, especially in the world of AI. Alex Boris is running to represent Manhattan in Congress, and OpenAI and Palantir, where he used to work, are shelling out millions and millions of dollars to try to make sure he's not elected. But on the other side, OpenAI's rival Anthropic, they pumped $20 million into a super PAC that backs him, setting up this showdown in the Big Apple in just about 2 weeks. And joining us now is Alex Boris, a Democratic State Assemblyman in New York's 73rd District, and now a candidate for New York's 12th Congressional District. Alex, thanks so much for being with us. So why are these AI companies, including the ones that you used to work for, pouring so much money in trying to defeat you?
Well, because they don't believe there should be any regulation of AI whatsoever. And last year, I passed the strongest AI safety bill in the country called the RAISE Act. over Donald Trump's executive order targeting it. But they're not attacking me because what I've done. They're attacking me because they're terrified of what I will do in Congress, which is pass strong AI regulations that protect you and your family and your job and the impact on the environment.
So why are they, I mean, it makes sense that they're opposing you, but why is Anthropic supporting you?
Well, Anthropic and a huge variety of people in this space want there to be some regulation whatsoever. To be clear, I disagree with Anthropic all the time. I mean, just Friday, I passed a bill in New York that restricted certain chatbot features so they can't be made available to kids if they are unsafe, to help protect from the horrible, horrible stories we've heard of teenagers interacting with these chatbots. Anthropic lobbied hard against that bill. My AI safety bill that I passed last year, the RAISE Act, which put basic safety standards on the most advanced AI research, co-founder of Anthropic did a whole Twitter flame thread about it, opposing it. So, you know, this is not really a proxy war more than it is a few extreme members of the tech industry wanting there to be no regulation whatsoever, and most of the reasonable people in tech, along with labor unions and advocates and parents, saying that is a ridiculous standard. We need some sort of protection here.
It's so interesting. The conversation is always, well, we need guardrails, but when you get into the technical specifications for those guardrails, all of a sudden it's like, well, no, you don't understand the specifics. You've worked in tech, right? So what are the tangible guardrails that we can expect?
There's a lot that we need to do, and on my website, alexborst.nyc, I lay out 43 specific proposals, but I think the top ones to think about are, first of all, frontier AI labs having regulation that keeps us safe from the absolute worst risks that can come about. A bunch of legislation to protect kids, including around chatbots, as well as how AI is used in schools and how we're educating kids for the future, and protections on the labor force to ensure that government is not incentivizing companies to lay off humans to hire AI, but instead I've put forward an AI dividend plan that makes sure all Americans benefit from any of the gains that can come from this technology.
If you were elected here, how would you use AI in congressional office? How would you use it as a congressman, and how do you use it now?
It's a great question. I use AI almost every day. I am not someone who says, you know, there is no value in this technology. I think those of us that want there to be regulations, want there to be safety, we're some of the first to see the power of the technology. That's why we want guardrails on it. So I use it to gather information, to do quick research on things, to sort of go back and forth and prep for debates sometimes. It's very, very powerful. It needs to be used in the right ways. And really, the American people just need a say in how this technology develops. Right now, all the decisions are being made by 5 AI billionaires. And this campaign is really a test about whether our democratic institutions can govern this technology before it ends up governing us.
There are the AI billionaires, and then there's also Palantir. And I've been wanting to ask somebody about this for quite some time. A little while ago, your former employer, Palantir, they made some waves, publishing what's known as like a manifesto, right, that laid out what they saw as, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's basically this obligation for hard power and somewhat of an alignment with the U.S. government. I want to get your take. Like, what do you think about the manifesto, the Palantir manifesto?
I think tech wanting to work with the U.S. government in general to make it effective would be a good thing. I think companies aligning with this fascist regime is a very bad thing. And I think that manifesto really embraced a lot of Trump's viewpoints on how the federal government should be acting in a way that was really scary to me to see how it has moved, and I can tell you was scary to many of the other people that have worked there, and even some of the people who are working there.
Alex Borst, candidate for Congress, thank you so much for stopping by. And still to come in the future of everything, is Apple's AI comeback finally here? The big new features come into Siri that the company announced, and how soon you might be able to use them. Coming up next. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. All right. We got 2 minutes.
You're welcome.
MS. China? Yes, thank you. That was me asking Lisa for more time. That's who I was texting on the phone. I was like, please, a little bit more time, a little bit more time. She is the keeper of the clocks. Let's see. AI secretary. Interesting, interesting. MS, your politics are hard to figure out, and I appreciate that. That's my favorite kind of political spectrum.
90 back.
Let's see. What else? What studio is Steve broadcasting at? Yep. Yeah, I saw it with that much outstanding. I was like, yeah, that's, I mean, unless they got a huge drop, but that makes sense. Thank you. All right. And then coming up, we are going to be talking about Apple. When is that update? When is the latest update coming to Apple?
1 minute back.
Let me see. Does anybody know when it ships?
Breaking in, future up.
Mid-September, is that right? Yeah, yeah. It looks like it's going to be in the fall. Yeah. So the series stuff, we're going to have to wait until the fall, right? Yeah. That's crazy. Okay.
Second 20, Gotti.
All right. We've got 20 seconds, guys. You ready? Developer download today. Oh, interesting. Helmuth, are you in tech, by the way?
10 seconds, breaking logo, camera 2.
Here we go.
Here we go, start setting in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back talking all things new in the world of Apple in a few minutes. But first, another massive tech IPO on the horizon. OpenAI has just filed to go public. That decision coming only a week after its competitor Anthropic did the exact same thing. OpenAI says it hasn't decided exactly when it will open its stocks to investors because, quote, there are things we want to do that are likely easier as a private company. Meanwhile, today, it was Apple Hype Day on their campus, and they just unveiled new AI features that hopefully will make Siri a lot smarter. The Siri AI will be more conversational, can see your screen if you share it, can check and find things in your emails, check your messages and pictures if you allow it, and some of its reasoning is going to come from a partnership with Google's Gemini, which is interesting because Apple and Google, which owns Android, by the way, working together on this, that is a question mark. It's all to finally deliver on the promise Apple made last year, which we haven't really seen come to fruition involving AI yet. The tech giant actually just settled a $250 million class action lawsuit because iPhone 15 and 16 were supposed to have some new features, which didn't end up happening. And joining us now is one of our favorite tech people on planet Earth, Joanna Stern from Apple Park in Cupertino. Joanna, great to see you. I see you've got the buds in, but like the question for me is Siri about to actually become usable in the same way that we're getting used to using chatbots?
That's the word here, or lots of words here at Apple's WWDC 2026. There has been so much talk about Siri, all about how it's got an improved voice, how it's got an improved brain, so many new features that they're saying are coming, some that they had previously promised, but I would not think of this as just the old Siri that they forgot to fix and they kind of delayed. This is an entirely new type of Siri, new types of large language models powering it, but also using teamwork now between Apple and Google to make it smarter.
It's so funny because, you know, as Gemini released their voice use as Claude, I mean, every game in town now has voice, but they don't have the functionality where it's easy to access it unless you've got like an Android. It does seem like so much of this feels like Gemini. Is it weird that Apple is teaming up with Gemini on this? Because who's their competition these days?
Well, yes, Apple has worked with Google on the underlying models that you're going to be now having with some of this Siri, but they're very clear to say this is not Gemini. And the big thing that Apple's really focusing on is that Apple or Siri can use the context of your iPhone. So Siri knows what's on your screen because you're using Apple Mail or you're using Apple Messages or you're using Safari. And so what they're trying to build is this personal assistant that has a lot of context about your life. And yes, of course, it's got better search and it's going out and using some of Google's models and it's using some of their own models. But this is their big thing, is that they're not just another chatbot. They've got access to all this information on your iPhone, and that they're going to keep it secure and private, but they are going to give Siri more access to it.
What else stood out to you today? Because the map Gaussian splatting stuff does seem pretty wild.
I mean, for me, I think the parental controls effort was a really big thing that they focused on. They are revamping the parental controls. As a parent, I've been very frustrated that these controls just often don't work. They are there, they say they will work, but they don't sync across my kids' iPads. I'll say I don't want screen time at a certain time, and yet they still have screen time. So they say they're fixing a lot of that, which is great. Another big thing they're doing is just basic usability to iOS. All of us use our iPhones. We would like things to work faster. We would like things to not crash as often, or we would like things to just work better. And that's what they focused a lot on. They said AirDrop is going to be faster between phones. They said launching apps is going to be faster. So just a basic usability overhaul from Apple.
And you've covered so many of these. You've seen them from afar and close up. How does this one stack up to last year? Because last year there were a lot of promises, again, with the Siri and promising it to be a lot more intelligent. Like, does this one look like all hype, or does it look like we've got some tangible results already?
I think Apple's learned from the past years of hype. There was very little hype here. And last year they did the big liquid glass redesign. They focused all about this great new redesign. People didn't love it. The year before that, they did this new Siri and they were delayed on that. This entire presentation was a lot more muted in terms of promises. I did not come out of it saying, oh my gosh, yay, we're going to get this new feature. I just got the sense that, okay, we're finally going to get this Siri they promised. We're finally maybe going to get a Siri that doesn't completely suck. And we're going to get some other good usability features. And you know what? That's pretty good for most iPhone users.
And apart from the parental controls. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're a company as big as Apple. But apart from the parental controls, what's the first thing that you're going to be messing around with here?
Well, a lot of, look, I did not love the liquid glass translucency of everything. And now in iOS 27 in the fall, you're going to be able to control the liquid glass. There's going to be a slider. So I'm pretty excited about that, Gotti.
Awesome.
Like I said, set the bar low.
Yeah, very low. Joanna, thank you.
Good to see you too here in the tornado that is Apple.
And still to come, the massive security operation in New York City with President Trump at Madison Square Garden right now for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. We are live at one of the big watch parties coming up next. But first, you got to see this. You might have already seen it. It's that pint-sized humanoid robot that went rogue. It's important that we watch this, even though it's hard to see. Here it comes. Wait for it. What are you going to do? Watch out, kid. Oh, come on! That amusement park in China swapped out costume characters for those robots, but one of them, that guy in the blue clown wig, went off script. The little boy is okay, we're told, but that incident is raising serious questions about safety when it comes to these robots. Let's not forget it. We'll be right back. That is offensive to Oklahomans. Jay Place, if you've ever been to like the Apple campus in the Circle, it's an inside. Yeah, I hear you. That's funny. SML, you got the 27 update? How is it? What's up, Bell? How are you? Reed does not like iPhones. MS doesn't like mobile phones at all. What's this noise? Check. I don't see it.
Oh, forgot. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like,
You want me to go where?
it
That
sounds
way?
like a very loud crowd.
We can't even do the shot. I didn't realize that.
Some hits on the feed. Okay. Okay. 3 minutes into the show. Let's see what you got. Can you guys punch it up? It's Checky, right? All right. There she is. Checky Beckford. Yes. Okay, so how does this work? They're not allowed to, I mean, they're going to be completely prevented from going anywhere near Madison Square Garden, right? Allegedly. And they've got those crazy barricades up. Okay. Interesting.
10 seconds, sir.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right, here we go. Knicks.
5, 4,
Spurs.
3.
Hey, welcome back. The New York Knicks are back home tonight, 2 wins away from history, trying to go 3-0 up against the San Antonio Spurs. Now, Madison Garden is ready. The city is ready, and it looks like the president is there tonight. Among some 20,000 Knicks fans, President Trump is the first sitting president to attend an NBA Finals game, which has, of course, created a whole bunch of security headaches. So, home court, historic drought, head of state, it's all here for tonight's Game 3. Now, the usual watch party outside Madison Square Garden has been canceled because probably the presidential visit there. So joining us from a relocated watch party at Central Park is NBC's New York's Checky Beckford. Checky, great to see you. What's the vibe like all the way out there in Central Park?
Well, I can tell you, God, you can probably hear how psyched people are right now. The game got underway about 10 minutes ago, so they're in the beginning of it. There's lots of cheering, some booing when San Antonio is on the screen. I'm going to step out of the way here so you can see some of the crowd behind me. But as you mentioned, this might be kind of a result of some of the issues with the closure of the watch party at Madison Square Garden, the outdoor watch party anyway. That we're having more people come to this watch party. The gates here opened at 7:30, and I can tell you that even nearly an hour and a half later, people are still making their way in. Security checks include bag checks and wanding, and there's still people who are still outside the gate trying to make their way in right now. But the capacity here can be up to about 4,000 people, and as you can see, it's still not exactly full, so we're expecting more people.
And Checky, is New York going to become like just a massive watch party? Way back in the day, it was like all about screens. Everybody's got the ability to watch the game and just like crowd around each other on the subway. What do you think it's going to be like in the city tonight?
Oh, I can tell you it's going to be pretty intense if they win. And probably even if they don't win, I think that people are going to be excited anyway because they're up to 2 games so far. But yeah, we've had a lot of people from all different walks of life that we've spoken to today. Some native New Yorkers who are psyched about this. Some people who didn't really care about basketball before but are now into it because of the frenzy here in the city. And we even spoke to a guy and his son who flew all the way from Sydney, Australia. 27 hours, he told us, because they wanted to be here for the watch party.
And we've seen such a security presence over at Madison Square Garden. Is there a lot of security all throughout the city right now, especially with the big, huge crowds that you're seeing at Central Park?
Yeah, Gotti. Well, across the city, we know that several streets around Herald Square, around Penn Station are closed down because of the president's visit. And even here, security is pretty intense as well. As I mentioned, they've got a whole security process out there. That is probably part of why we're only seeing people entering, some people entering right now. It's been over an hour and a half since gates open, and people are still making their way in. They're wanding people outside, checking bags, and making sure that everything's safe.
Checky Beckford over at Central Park, which is quite a ways away from the Gardens. I understand Knicks right now down 21-11, but we'll see if they can surmount that score very early on in the game. Checky, thank you so very much for being with us. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz here in Los Angeles. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. What was that? Great show, everybody. There may be, in fact, a call on California's governor's race. We will need Gotti to stand by. Okay, Maybe. We'll see. Hey, do you want to see, I don't know, can you guys throw up the Ronin? Are they still there? It's going to show what this looks like. If not today, then we can do it tomorrow. And then are we still doing 10 on 2, Lisa? Are we still doing 10 on 2 today or no? I don't know what this standby is going to be. They just sent it at 54. Uh-oh, it's doing the Zoom thing. Okay, perfect. All right, let's try it tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, we're having problems, tech problems. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. Wow. Yikes.